Hello, everybody. Welcome to the writings of Saint Isaac the Syrian. This is homily number 3 of his, right? So in his ascetical homilies, this is number 3. So we're going to go through it together. We're going to put it in modern day English. All right, my friends, let's begin with his commentary. And this guy is he's so phenomenal. All right. So a soul that is not very anxious about accumulating wealth does not need great efforts to find itself within itself movements of wisdom towards God. Detachment from world naturally stirs flashes of insight by which it can lift itself to God and remain in holy ecstasy. Now, not exactly the same thing, but I'm thinking, you know how there's now this movement for modernism, for less stuff, for things like that, where there's more peace that goes along with it. Well, what if this decluttering, what if we're not anxious about accumulating possessions, so that we can find Christ a little bit more easier, find God a little bit more easier? So as we begin to detach ourselves from worldly nature, it stirs up flashes of insight for God. So we begin to get illuminated more by God's presence in our lives. By the way, I'm going through this with you and I'm examining my own soul as we're doing this. So let's see. When waters from outside do not flow into the soul's spring, its own native water rises up, wonderful intuitions that are always moving towards God. So when the junk from outside is not coming into your life, it's there, but it's not coming into your life, you're better off in a sense, right? You are moving towards God, which is not always the case for most of us. All right. So he says, whenever the soul is not found in this state, it has either taken its standing point from foreign memories or the senses have disturbed it by contact with outward things. But when the senses are fenced in an unbroken solitude and distracting memories fade under its helpful influence, then you will see that the soul's deliberation are by nature, and what the soul itself is, and what the treasure stored within it. And so if we're not found in that state where we're moving constantly towards God, we're either taking a starting point from foreign memories, so things that are not necessarily ours. So maybe you're watching movies, you're watching whatever it is, you're listening to things, you're scrolling on Instagram, which is not necessarily a bad thing of its own, but to certain levels, right? Then we may be taking our starting point from foreign memories. And sometimes we're disrupted by other outwardly things. And so what essentially is going on is the outside of us is getting tainted. And so this causes anxiety, it causes depression, it causes all the things that we now see more than what we've seen before. And so if we want a solution for all this, then we must have to find that peace that comes only through God, by the way. And so when the senses are fenced in by unbroken solitude, you have to put in the effort to put that fence up. That's the truth. You want that fence, you want to create that enclosure so that you are not being disrupted. It's by the grace of God that you can, but he's not going to build it for you. You have to be an active member in building this as well, so that you can see that the memories that you had before, they're fading away. And so this is when you see what the liberations are by nature, and what the soul itself is, and what the treasure lies within it. You want to know the treasures, you got to step away from the things that are causing you anxiety. And what's causing you anxiety? Well, we got to detach ourselves so that we can move on to spiritual heights. And as we said in the previous episode with St. Isaac, this was homily number 2, detaching ourselves from the world is a very big meaning, but he breaks it down for us. So check out the previous episode for that one. All right, so these treasures are incorporeal, which means they're not in the body. So they're incorporeal institutions that arise from the soul without care or toils. Indeed, a person does not even know that such deliberations could arise in human nature. He does not know who taught him, or how he found what he cannot explain to his companions, or who guided him to what he did not learn from another. This is the soul's nature. Passions are additions that enter the soul because of certain causes. By nature, the soul is not passible, not subject to passions. So he's saying, well, the original plan is not to have these things, but then life gets in the way. And as life gets in the way and things become more tainted, well, what is actually going on? Well, what's going on is that passions are now entering in. And if you remember, again, this is the world. So we have to detach ourselves from these passions and we have to name them. And it's not the same for me as it is for the person next to me or the person that's, you know, 10 feet away from me or whoever it is, right? It's not, sorry. When we talk about detachment from the world, it's not the same world. This is why you find that some of the saints were rich and well-known and wealthy and had all powers. And some other saints were poor and some other saints renounced everything. Well, did they all not leave, quote unquote, the world? So in other words, what am I attached to in the vicinity that I have? Okay, so when you find a psychic or bodily passions mentioned here or there in the scriptures, they spoke of an account of these causes. But in itself, the soul has no passion by nature. Philosophers outside the faith do not believe this. So philosophers outside the faith do not believe this, nor do their followers. But we believe God did not make his image passible. By his image, we do not mean the body, but the invisible soul. Wow. Okay, this is great. Every image is a copy in which the prototype is depicted. What is visible cannot be the image of what is invisible. Therefore, we believe the soul's passions are not natural, as some may say. Wow, okay. If passions, before I go through that one, this man just said, therefore, we believe the soul's passions are not natural, as some say, which by it, to me, it just sounds like he's debunking this whole idea of I was born this way, regardless of whatever the sin is, right? I was born like this, or this is just the way I am. Well, no, it's not. It's something that was learned. And a lot of times we see that in psychology as well, in therapy as well. But it's what happened outside that came into to disturb what is within. Okay. It's really cool because it debunks a lot of the things that we think. All right. So therefore, we believe that soul's passions are not natural, as some say. If anyone wishes to dispute this point, we will ask, what is natural to the soul? Being without passion or full of light? Or being driven by passion and darkness? If the soul's nature is clarity and receptivity to blessed light, then it will be found in the condition when it returns to its original state. But when it is moved by passions, the whole church acknowledges that it has departed from its nature. So the nature is actually to be with God or like God, right? In the image of God is a better thing. So full of light. So those passions should not exist. Consequently, passions are later additions to the soul's nature. It is entirely unfitting to consider passions as belonging to the soul itself, which means that we can give them up. If the soul is moved by them, it is plain that it is moved by something external to it and not what is its own. Wow. And if these passions are thought to be natural simply because the soul is moved by them through the body as a mediator, then hunger, thirst, and sleep would be natural to the soul, since it is affected and quieted by them together with the body. The same would have to be said of loss of limbs, fever, pain, illness, and the likes, by which the body is affected because it's joined to the soul. And the soul is affected because it's joined to the body, rejoicing with bodily pleasure and sharing distress with temporal torments. Some of the stuff is, I feel like it requires rereading on my end, but it's very interesting that these passions that we have that we think are just built in, they're not. And if they're not built in, then they can be removed. If they can be removed, then we can grow in holiness. And we can grow more in the image of Christ. Not to say that, and again, we have to be very careful with passion here and how St. Isaac defines it. When we talk about the world, it's not, so let's say you are passionate about art. That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's talking about, right? Passions like lust, right? That would be a passion that's moving in you, right? That is not of the soul. But the desire for marriage is a holy marriage, and that's a good thing. But lust is not, okay? Hopefully that's making sense. So, what is natural to a soul? What is external to it? And what is above its nature? Natural to a soul is the understanding of all created things, both sensible and intelligible. This is natural to the soul. Understanding things, created things, things that are sensible, and the things that are intangible. Above its nature is being moved by divine contemplation. External to its nature is being stirred emotionally by passions. And again, passions, we have to look at it the way he defines it, not the way we currently in our modern day define it. Okay, so the great and victorial Basil, which is St. Basil, also says, when the soul abides in its natural order, it is found above. But when it forsakes its nature, it's found below on earth. There are no passions above, there where the soul's place is said to be. But when the nature abandons its order, it becomes passible. Where then do the soul's passion belong? Now that it's clear that they do not belong in its nature. So where are they placed? It is evident that the soul moved by blameworthy passions that are in the body, just as it is moved by hunger and thirst because of the body. But since there are no commandments regarding these necessarily body condition, the soul is not blamed for their account. Sometimes God even commands a person to do what would otherwise be blameworthy, and instead of censure, he gives a good reward. Like the prophet who entered an unlawful marriage by God's command, or Elijah who slew in zeal for God, or those who, at Moses' word, struck down their own kin. Some say that apart from what belongs to the body's nature, the soul also possesses by nature anger and ardor, and that these are its passions. A second question. When the soul desire is set ablaze by divine realities, is that according to its nature? Or is it rather that when desire is set on earthly and bodily things? And when we say that the soul's nature burns for what rouses its zeal, is that ardor natural when it's joined to the body's craving, envy, fame, and the like, or when it's moved in the opposite direction? We will answer that. We will answer the question under dispute, and we will inquire about it too. To be fair and truthfully, I have no idea what he's saying. Like, I am excited to continue reading, and hopefully God will illuminate my mind as well as yours. But some of this stuff is probably above my pay grade. Not probably, for sure. But I'm excited to read it. So let's read along. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay. So Holy Scripture says many things allegorically and often uses metaphorical terms. Cool. Many times, for the sake of brevity, it attributes to the soul what belongs to the body, and to the body what belongs to the soul, without distinguishing between the two. The discerning understand what they read, namely, Scripture's aim. For instance, in the matter related to divinity of our Lord, what is too lofty to belong to his humanity is something spoken of his humanity, and what does not suit divinity is spoken of his divinity. Many have stumbled here by not grasping Scripture's intent and have not risen again. So it is with matter concerning soul and body. If excellence is a soul's natural health, while passions are ailments that possess it and rob it of its health, then clearly health is prior by nature to incidental sickness. And if this is so, and it truly is, then excellence must be natural to the soul. And the incident belongs to what is external to its nature. What is prior cannot be anything but natural. Hopefully, people are following along. The thing that is very interesting to me is that he started in the first homily, and let me look this up, but he started in the first homily by talking about what excellence is. And he kind of brings us here this full circle. Let me look at my notes from like the first homily, because literally I think it's like one of the first lines that he has. And so let's tie this back together, but I'm looking for it. 1 second. All right. It says, the fear of God is the foundation of excellence, for excellence is born from faith. It is rooted in a person's heart when he disciplines his mind to restrain wandering impulses and instead meditates continuously on the order of things to come, withdrawing from worldly distractions. So this is still along the same lines, right? So what is he saying? Well, he starts off this homily saying, you got to detach yourself from worldly distractions so that you can get to the place that is natural for the soul. And his argument is excellence is actually natural to the soul. And what is excellence? Well, excellence, the fear of God is the foundation of excellence, and excellence is born of faith, and that's where it belongs. That's where it begins. And so the true foundation of human life is the fear of God. Yet this fear cannot dwell in the soul while distractions remain. Again, same thing, getting rid of the distractions that are in the heart. And so that's what excellence is. Excellence, faith, fear of God. So excellence is natural to the soul, while passions are ailments that oppose it and rob it of its health. Now, again, let me define passions for you the way he defined them. And that is, I believe, in the second homily. Let's see. I can't find it as quickly as I would like. Nope, could not find it. Anyways, so he defines passions or the world. Let's see, actually. All right. Forgetting the world and all that is in it is cast out from the world. All right. I cannot find it. Okay, so let's continue on with his actual writings. If excellence is the soul's natural health, while passions are ailments that oppose it and rob it of health, then clearly health is prior by nature to incidental sickness. That incidental sickness is coming from incidents that happen outside the body. And it is so, and it truly is, then excellence must be natural to the soul. So faith must be natural to the soul in this case as well. And the incidental belong to what is external to its nature. So it's not your nature that is bringing in these problems, which is great news because it's coming from outside of you, which means you can detach from it. Okay, what is prior cannot be anything but natural. So then he poses a third question, and I believe he's going to argue that question. And that leads to, our body's passion natural, or is it secondary? And the passions that affect the soul through the body. as they are secondary or natural? Is it possible to call the body's own passions unnatural? As for the soul, since it is known and universally confessed that purity belongs to its nature, no one will dare to claim that it is primary passible. Everyone agrees that disease comes after health. Wow. I don't know who that everybody is that he's talking to, but these are a lot smarter than me. Never did I think that, but that's very true. Disease comes after health. You have to have been healthy to get sick. So one and the same thing cannot be both a good and an evil in nature. One must be prior to the other. So what is order is unnatural. What is incidental cannot be called natural and essential. It enters from outside. And every accident and intrusion is linked with variation and change. Whenever it attaches, nature, however, does not change or vary. Okay, this is mind-blowing. Do you guys? I'm stumped. Okay, so what is incidental cannot be natural and essential. Great. Again, not essential. It's coming from outside. And what's happening? That every time these incidentals are happening, there is a variation and a change. And then that's wherever it attaches. So wherever the incident is, or the accident is, or the intrusion is, there is a change that is, or a variation and a change that it attaches to that part of your soul, to that part of you that needs to be healed. But nature does not change or vary. So once you detach that, you're back to where you need to be. You're back to being full of light. You're back to being radiant and God's glory, which is what He created you and designed you to be. This is wonderful. It's wonderful news, because we keep talking about detachment of the world. We keep saying, at least in Christian circles, we talk about detaching from all of it and cleaving onto God, or surrendering to God, and all these things. And they seem like buzzwords. And for me, for a really long time, I'm like, someone please explain to me, what in God's name are you talking about? How am I detached to God? And finally, this is just, it's so great. It's so great to read, because there it is in practicality. He has defined what success is. He has defined what faith is. He is defining for us today what is natural and what is not natural to the soul, and how change is actually happening. And really read modern psychology. You'll find a lot of, now that they're discovering a lot of this stuff. So every accident and intrusion is linked to variation and change. And that's it. You want to go back to the original, you have to detach yourself from that particular moment, or the bad that was, the amalgamation of imperfect love that was there at that moment. Okay. All the passions that exist have been given, and hopefully as I grow with you guys as we're doing this, and my understanding is more shaped and more in the nuances, because please do not take this as I'm the expert in this. I'm not. I'm here with you guys, and this is what I'm learning at this very moment. And 2 or 10 years from now, I may look back at this and think, what was I saying? Right? Maybe there's so much more depth that I'm missing. Okay, because He has spent so much time with God, and I'm yet to remotely be close enough. All the passions that exist have been given as a help to the nature to which they naturally belong, and for whose growth they were given by God. Wow. Okay. All the passions that exist have been given as help to the natures. So whatever the nature is, all the passions that were there were meant to help it. But something is happening, right? Bodily passions were set by God in the body for its benefit and growth and the soul's power. What some call psychic passions, again, has nothing to do with psychics today. This is not the same thing. Not what we mean. Do not take it as that, by no means, okay? These were given to the soul's benefit and growth. When the body is forced to abandon its passible nature by withdrawing from its proper affection to follow the soul's nature, it is harmed. Likewise, when the soul leaves its own nature to follow the body's, it is harmed. For as the apostles say in substance, the spirit longs for what is contrary to the body, and the body longs for what is contrary to the spirit. The two are naturally opposed to one another. Therefore, no one should blame God as if he planted our nature, both passion and sin. When he ordered each nature, he planted what would make it grow. But if one nature intrudes into the other's domain, it is no longer its own place, but a foreign one. I kind of feel like I know what he's hinting at or what he's talking about. But it's pretty big for me, like to wrap my head around it. Essentially, what I'm hearing is this: God created those natures to help those passions to help what is nature, to help you grow, to help you become sanctified. But then these passions are being used not to sanctify you. So if we take the example of lust versus a holy sacramental marriage, that lust, the passion wasn't there because God planted it in you and that's what it was ordered to do. No, it was ordered for a holy sanctifying marriage. That's what it was ordered to do. But lust came in to another domain, and it's no longer in its own place, but a foreign one. This is what I'm understanding, and hopefully it makes sense with it's tracking. I don't know. If these passions belong naturally to the soul, why would the soul be harmed by using them? Very true. What is natural to a thing does not injure it. And how is it that the body's proper passions benefit the body, while those attributes to the soul injure the soul, if they truly belong to it? And if this were so, why would excellence trouble the body yet benefit the soul? You see how what is external to each nature injures it? Every nature rejoices when it is near what is its own. If you want to know each nature's property, note that these properties are those things by which it profits in use. If it is tormented by using any of these things, know that it's being affected by what is not its own property. I really want to take this and I am going to put it into Chat GPT and find out what he means by nature. And I will tell you natures. Like, what is the list? Hang in there with me. Let's see what we come up with. All right, so I'm going to finish off this while it processes. Oop, my bad. Did I do something? All right, we conclude. This is St. Isaac's conclusion. If it is known that the affection proper to each nature are mutually opposed, then whatever gives profit and rests the body, when applied to the soul, must not reckon it as belonging to the soul. For what is natural to the soul is deadly to the body, except for those things that are joined to the soul in a secondary way. I really got to see what he's talking about. He lost me. All right, you guys want to see? Let's see. This is what it says. In that passage, St. Isaac is using natures in a classical patristic sense. That is, built-in constitution, power, and end for what thing is for, and of kind of being. He mainly is contrasting the body's nature with the soul's nature. What is nature to a thing does not injure it means not natural. If something truly belongs to a thing's nature, it sustains, complete, and perfects it. The body's proper nature, passions, are in its natural drive. So think hunger, thirst, sleep, the need for warmth, and sexual reproductive impulses. In due measures, these benefit the body, keep it alive, repair it, and fruitful. So they reveal what is natural to the body. The soul's proper good are intellect and moral spiritual. For St. Isaac, the soul's nature is oriented to knowing the truth, loving God and neighbor, freedom, humility, temperance, and mercy. In short, virtue. This is what's natural to the soul. These things benefit the soul and do not injure it. Vices attributed to the soul are not natural to it. So things like passion, envy, rancor, vainglory, lustful fixation are disturbance of that soul's power. They injure the soul, which shows that they are not of its nature. They are foreign accidents like diseases. So why does excellence, virtue, / ascetic practice trouble the body but benefit the soul? Fasting, vigils, almsgiving, restraint, they can be hard on the body. They curb its appetite, but they heal and strengthen the soul. That asymmetry is Isaac's diagnosis. What benefits the soul, virtue, is proper to the soul, while merely pleases the body, if indulged, can injure the soul, showing that it isn't the soul's proper good. Some patristic rule on discernment. Every nature rejoices when it is near what is its own. If you want to know each nature's property, note the things by which it profits in use. If it is tormented by using it, it's being affected by what it's not its own. So if moderate food, rest, warmth help keep the body, they're natural to the body. If truth, prayer, humility, mercy, charity help the soul, they're natural to the soul. If something torments the subject, resentment torments the soul, starvation torments the body, that thing, at least in what is used or measured, is not proper to the soul. Some quick example that they give us. So body, eating enough repairs tissues, restores energy. Body, not natural, gluttony and or starvation. It either increases sickness or weakness, which is very true. If we overeat, we feel like we indulge in things we shouldn't indulge in. We end up sick. We end up with diabetes. We end up with cholesterol. We end up with things that we don't want to end up with. Some things are genetic, but in moderation, things are better. If we're eating healthier, we're keeping the body healthy. We're keeping the body more sustainable. And so we're repairing the tissue, restoring energy, and so forth. And so for the soul, repentance, humility, and love, what do they bring? They bring peace, clarity, and freedom. The not natural are pride, envy, and spite. So what do they bring? They bring agitation, darkness, bondage. And this is kind of what he was hinting at in the second homily as well. All right. So this gives us a little bit more of that perspective. Now, where were we? For what is natural to the soul is deadly to the body, except those things that are joined to the soul in a secondary way, from which, because of the flesh's weakness, the soul cannot utterly be freed so long as it wears the flesh. For it is nature is bound up by the flesh's hardship, because its impulses and interwoven with bodily senses by insecurable wisdom. All right. Even though human being may, even to a high degree, equalize the impulses by sin or by excellence, at appointed time, each will exert itself and show its power. All right. A little bit tough to read, but we're going through. When bodily thoughts are somewhat lifted up, their impulses show themselves wholly in a spiritual sphere, swimming in the heavens of the heart among incomprehensible things. Yet, even then, the body cannot remain without some memory of what belongs to it. Just as when impulses move into the realm of sin, the soul's beautiful movement are not entirely silenced in the mind. What is purity of the mind? Not ignorance of evil things. For that would be brutishness. Nor do we call those pure in mind whom mere nature has placed in boyhood. For what that would deny that man belongs among created things, created responsible beings. Purity of the mind is being captivated by divine things, a state reached only after many virtues have been practiced. I like this concept of practiced virtue. It really does take a lot of work. It takes work from us to be able to do any of this. And so here it's very important to see that. Purity of the mind is being captivated by divine things. Purity of the mind is being captivated by divine things. That's it. If our thoughts are in constant meditation on the Lord, then there is a difference. Then we get to that purity of the mind. We do not dare to say that one has reached the state, did so without experiencing contrary deliberations. Otherwise, he would not be clothed in the body. We do not think that before the world to come, nature can be cleansed of all contrary tendencies. We can't get rid of all of them. The trial of deliberation, in my view, is not the one that yields to them, but that the inner struggle begins with the mind on the account of the four fundamental bases that are the root of movement of all kinds of passion. Thus, in this life, no one is found entirely exalted above earthly memories. Not even the masters of combat, nor those reputed perfect like Paul. All right, hold on a second. We're gonna run to chat for a minute. I get it, but I feel like there's more. All right, let's see what he got to say. All right. So before the world to come, human nature is never completely purified in contrary movement. So he is saying, as long as we live in this life, we cannot expect our nature, body and soul, to be completely free from inner tension, impulses, contrary thoughts, or momentary disturbance. Total purification only happens in the world to come, after resurrection and final healing. This means that even the holiest people experience moments of pull, inclination, or thoughts that arise against virtue. These inner stirrings are not sins unless we consent to them. He is rejecting the idea that human being in this life can reach the state of no temptation, impulses, or contrary thoughts. One very important thing is that even the greatest saints fell. Read through the Bible, right? King David fell in so many different ways. Solomon fell in so many different ways. Every one of them fell in so many different ways. St. Peter rejected Christ. He not rejected, that's not the word, but he denied Christ 3 times. And so we see this. So even if all these holy people are falling, I need to exercise humility and know that I am capable to fall at any moment. That's the truth of it. And so he continues. Let's continue on with our explanation. It says, he writes that trial is not that one yields to them, but that the inner struggle begins with the mind. Meaning, God does not judge us because thoughts or impulses show up. God judges us based on whether we fight against them, turn away, resist, or redirect the mind. For Isaac, the battle itself, not the absence of the battle, is a sign of spiritual health. Wow, okay. If the thought arises but you fight, you are strong. If the thought arises and you do not fight, then you fall. But having the thought themselves is not sin. It's part of human nature. All right, so the 4 fundamental bases are the root of impulses. This is kind of what I was looking at like what are these four, which is what I wanted to see: desire, anger, irascibility, mind, reasoning, memory, and imagination. These are the roots out of which all passions arise. It's very, I feel like, sorry if anyone taking note. If I'm taking note, this would be the place where I stop and write, because I want to dig more into this. What are these? How are they, how are passions arising from this? All right. So he is saying, as long as we have these natural faculties, impulses, and temptation can spring from them. Therefore, no one's completely beyond the struggle while still in this life. Even St. Paul included this. Isaac explicitly says, right? In this life, no one's found entirely exalted above earthly memories. Thoughts about the world, memories, desires, emotions, images, these still arise beyond in advanced saints. The goal is not, we cannot eradicate it, but we can move through it. They exist. There are temptations, there are passions, there are desires, there are memories of things that you have done in your past. Great news. This is great, because even the saints could not eradicate these things. Being tempted is not proof of weakness. Awareness of inner movement is part of purification, not a sign of failure. Praise be to God. Really, praise be to God. You are not spiritually immature because you still experience contrary impulses. Holiness is ongoing struggle, not perfect inner silence. Simple language, Isaac's saying, don't expect total inner purity in this life. Even saints have involuntary impulses and thought. What matters is resistance, not the absence of temptation. Human nature still has a roots that stir passion. Holiness is an inner battle, not its disappearance. And in therapy terms, therapy plus psychology, I like that this is already giving me this stuff. Involuntary thoughts are not failures. Automatic triggers are normal part of the psyche. Healing is the process of noticing and redirecting, not eliminating. Wholeness is the integration of conflicts' internal state, not the elimination of them. Progress is not judged by absence of symptoms, but by one's response to them. All right, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you have any questions, please let me know. You can find me at The Word with Rita, and I will be with you in the next time we go through the rest of homily number 3. Bye for now.